Everyone knows OU and Texas is one of the biggest games of the college football season within the Big 12 almost every single year, and 2019 will be no different. Both of these two teams have high expectations heading into 2019. Oklahoma, probably a top 5 team heading into the season. Texas, borderline top 10, but the point is both of these two teams really, really good, both with Big 12 title expectations and playoff expectations for 2019. We're going to talk about that game today and the other big games within the Big 12 for 2019. Good morning, it's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on YouTube today, so thanks for watching. You know, I really, really appreciate it. Subscribe to this channel if you're not already. I post college football videos almost every single day of the year, and sometimes they're even watchable. We're getting real close to the start of the college football season, just about 7 weeks away, with it kicking off on August 24th with a few games, including Florida and Miami, and then the full season getting started that following weekend around August 31st. You got a few Thursday games in between there too, but the point is we're getting really, really close. And of course, we're in the middle of conference weeks here on YouTube. We've done the, what have we done? The ACC and the Big 10, dedicating 4 or 5 days to each of those two conferences. Today, we're wrapping up with Big 12 week. I'll try to put the link up here if I can remember to the rest of the Big 12 videos. If you've missed any of them and you want to check them out, just click the link. It'll take you to a playlist. Going to move on to the Pac-12 starting tomorrow, spend 4 or 5 days on the Pac-12, and then finish up the conference weeks with the SEC after that. That'll take us right up to the team-by-team predictions. You guys know every offseason I do a detailed, in-depth preview and prediction for a bunch of teams, 50, 60 teams, where I predict not only what I think a team's overall record will be for this coming season, but exactly which games they win and lose. If you're excited for the start of college football season coming up soon, give this video a thumbs up. It doesn't cost you anything, takes you hardly any time at all, but it really helps me out. Go ahead and slap that thumbs up button now. All right, here we go now. Big 12, biggest games of the year, to me, I think, within the Big 12. I talked a little bit about OU Texas at the beginning. We'll get to that game in a minute. A little disclaimer, though. There are some big non-conference games within the Big 12 this year. I'm not covering those in this video. This is specifically Big 12 games, conference games, Big 12 versus Big 12. So, of course, you have LSU at Texas, huge game. I think Missouri is playing West Virginia, if I remember right, big game. Kansas plays Boston College. Anyway, you get the point. Not going to be covering those non-conference games in this video. This is going to be strictly Big 12 versus Big 12. Let's start with, let's start with this one. West Virginia at Kansas, September 21st. Why is this game important? Well, I'm not really sure how important this game will be, but this is Les Miles' first Big 12 game in 2019. He starts off with a handful of non-conference games, a couple of nobodies week 1 and 2, which I think Kansas really needs to find a way to win. A lot of people have Kansas pegged around the 2-win mark again for this year. If they can start 2-0 against those smaller classification schools, then I think that gives them a better chance to win 3 or 4 games, maybe even 5 this season. And I think this is one they can possibly win. I do think West Virginia is probably a little bit better of a team, but they lost a ton of talent from last year, including Will Greer. They've got a whole new coaching staff, as does, of course, Kansas. Another interesting game for Kansas the week before this, but it's non-con, on the road at Boston College. If Kansas somehow goes on the road and wins that game at Boston College, they might get to 5 wins this year. I don't expect that to happen. I think Boston College will probably beat them, but we'll see. But anyway, Les Miles' Big 12 debut at home, hosting West Virginia on September 21st. All right, OU and Texas, Red River rivalry, Red River shootout, whatever you want to call it. Of course, played in Dallas every year at the State Fair, this year on October 12th. A lot on the line in this game, but this isn't a make or break game for either of these two teams. Both of these two teams have the potential to go. The loser of this game could go 11-1. The winner could go 11-1 or 12-0. Most people expect these two teams to play twice this season, just like last season. This game here, the Red River shootout, and then the end of the year in the Big 12 title game. Of course, that's what happened last year. Texas won in the regular season last year in a great game. Oklahoma got revenge in the game that mattered a little more. The Big 12 title game, of course, making their way into the playoffs. Texas ended up in the Sugar Bowl. So both teams had good years last year. This is a huge game. Last 5 games between these two teams have been decided by 7 points or less. And that's a little strange if you consider sort of where Texas has been during that 5-year period. Now, last year Texas was a good team, winning, what were they, 10-4? I think they finished up. So a 10-win team, best season they've had in a while. But they had some pretty bad seasons during that last 5-year period, but they always find a way to play OU close. 7 points or fewer in the last 5 games. I think a lot of people are expecting something similar in this game here. Oklahoma's going to have a new quarterback this year. Of course, Jalen Hurts. He's got a ton of experience, though, at Alabama. Texas brings back Sam Ehlinger, who a lot of people have pegged as the best quarterback within the Big 12 this year. We'll see how it plays out as the season goes along. Texas has a lot of pieces to replace on defense, but they've recruited at a really high level, particularly on defense, particularly in the secondary. But they lose 9 starters. OU, of course, loses Heisman winner Kyler Murray. But they're loaded. CeeDee Lamb, running backs Trey Sermon, and is it Kennedy Brooks? Anyway, they're loaded. Sort of opposite situations here. OU known, of course, for their offense, probably the best offense in college football over the last 3 or 4 years. Texas been pretty good defensively, and that stands out especially in the Big 12, where a lot of teams don't have good defenses, OU in particular. Finishing 130th in defense, I think, last year. So this will be a good game. Can Texas get up to speed defensively, having to replace 9 starters by the time this game comes around on October 12th? So what is this, week 6 or so? So about halfway through the season, we'll see how Texas defense looks. They're going to have to play a great game. Anybody's got to play a great game defensively, really, if they want to beat OU. And the same can be said for OU. OU's got to find some defense this year. OU's got to find some defense this year, too. Now, they got a whole new defensive staff with Alex Grinch coming in at defensive coordinator. The problem is they have mostly the same players. I have more confidence in Texas's defense being good, having to replace 9 starters, than I do OU's defense being good just because they got a new defensive coordinator. I would give the defensive edge to Texas in this game. But the point is, if you're going to talk about the Big 12 and the biggest games or whatever, obviously you have to include this game. The biggest game of the year in the Big 12 for sure. All right, Kansas State at Kansas, November 2nd. In-state rivalry, Les Miles. Kansas State also has brand new coaching staff. Kansas State will probably be favored in this game. I'm sure they're favored right now. Now, of course, this is November 2nd, so we'll have plenty of games to go by the time this one comes around, and maybe things change. But right now, I would say most people probably expect Kansas State to win that game. But Kansas State not expected to be a very good team this year. This is one of those games, I think, that Kansas has a potential of winning. No matter how great or good or well, really whatever you think of Les Miles, they're not winning 8, 9, 10 games, anything like that. Kansas is they're just not. I mean, a bowl game would be an absolute miracle for Kansas. I think what you're looking for this year, if you're a Kansas fan, is a couple of wins that people don't expect you to get. Sort of a Tennessee situation from last year with Jeremy Pruitt. Nobody with any real sense expected Tennessee to do anything meaningful last year, but people said, well, a few reasonable people, maybe. But if you were reasonable, you said if Jeremy Pruitt can just find a way to make a bowl game at 6 wins, that would give you some positive momentum going forward. Now, they didn't hit that mark coming up at 5 and 7, but they got a couple of wins that people didn't expect them to get. Auburn, Kentucky. Kansas, I think, needs to do something similar this season. And Kansas State is one of the teams that I think Kansas actually has a chance to beat if things go their way. So Kansas State at Kansas, November 2nd. Iowa State at OU on November 2nd. Now, this could be a good game here. I'm high on Iowa State's coach. And, of course, Iowa State beat OU in Norman the last time they played in 2017, which is really weird. Okay, Iowa State wins at Oklahoma. And then last year, Oklahoma turns around and wins at Iowa State, which goes against everything that the universe has been telling us for a million years, according to a certain OU YouTuber who claims that it's absolutely impossible to win a game at Iowa State. That's his claim. He says it in almost every single video. You can't win at Iowa State. Well, apparently you can. What you can't do, at least not in 2017, is beat Iowa State in your place in Norman. Now, no one's going to, Iowa State will not be favored in this game. OU will be a big favorite. I expect OU to win this game, but the point is, if you're picking somebody in the Big 12, if you're trying to do like a dark horse or some sort of miracle team that you're trying to pick in the Big 12 outside of OU or Texas, Iowa State may be the team that you take a chance on. Maybe TCU. What about Baylor? Anyway, the point is this will be an interesting game just because Iowa State won the last time this game was played in Norman. Oklahoma has a habit of sort of losing a game during the year that you don't expect them to lose. Now, a lot of teams do that. It's hard to go undefeated 12-0. Very few teams do it. Alabama and Clemson last year. But generally speaking, you're way more likely to go 11-1 than you are 12-0, no matter who you are. Is this the game that trips OU up this year? I don't know. We'll see. But Iowa State at OU, November 9. All right, and then Texas at Iowa State. So automatic L for Texas, I guess, if you believe, what's his name? This one's on November 16th. Now, Iowa State has only scored a total. Listen to this. I was talking about Texas's defense earlier. Iowa State has only scored a total of 23 points the last 3 games against Texas. That's barely 7 points a game, a little over 7 points a game, less than 8 points a game. Iowa State's not going to win scoring 7 or 8 points. They're going to have to find a way to score more. We'll see. Can they do it? As mentioned previously, Texas is on the road here at Iowa State. Texas is another team that has had some head-scratching losses over the last few years. Of course, losing to Maryland the last 2 years in a row. They haven't beat Oklahoma State in forever. I think it was 2014 or something the last time they beat Oklahoma State. And there's been several seasons, including last season, where Texas was clearly the better team. Texas has got to avoid these letdowns against lesser teams. There's a stat on Tom Herman. I didn't look it up, but I just remember reading it. He's undefeated or close to undefeated as an underdog, but when he's a heavy favorite, he tends to struggle. Maryland comes to mind, Oklahoma State. Anyway, this is a game that Texas has to win if they really want college football fans to start taking them seriously. 10-4 is a good season. A Sugar Bowl win is great. I'm not downplaying that at all. But 4 losses, you're never going to get where you want to go with 4 losses. It's not going to happen. I hate to break the news to you, but it's not. And one way to get less than 4 losses is to stop losing to teams like Iowa State, Oklahoma State, whatever the case. It seems like once or twice a year that happens. So we'll keep an eye on this one. It's late in the season. We'll see what's going on injury-wise with both these teams. But Texas at Iowa State, November 16th. All right, and then Texas Tech at Texas. Now, Texas Tech is not a good team, and they have... I talk about Oklahoma's defense all the time. Texas Tech is right there in terms of terrible defenses within the Big 12. They're absolutely awful. But Texas Tech on the road at Texas, November 29th. Texas should win this game. This is another one where people are going to look at this and go, oh, Texas is going to win. Don't let it be the thing where people are waking up the next morning and reading the box scores and going, huh? How did Texas lose that game? I don't know, but they have beat you in Texas each of the last 2 times you've played, which would have been, 2017 and 2015. You beat them in 16 and 18 on the road. They've beat you in 17 and I'm sorry. Texas Tech won the last 2 at Texas, right? Which would, if we're in 19 now, that would have been 17. Anyway, I'm getting confused with the years. But you get what I'm saying. Texas Tech has won the last 2 games on the road in this series. Texas Tech at Texas, November 29th. All right, and then the Bedlam game played every year on Thanksgiving weekend. This year, November 30th. OU on the road this year at Oklahoma State. Listen to this. People talk about the Big 12 defenses all the time, right? This is exactly what they're talking about right here. The losing team in this game, each of the last 2 years, has scored at least 47 points. Do you know how hard it is to score 47 points or more and lose? It's very hard, borderline impossible in any other conference. In the Big 12, though, it seems like a regular occurrence. And this matchup here the last 2 years is a perfect microcosm of the average college football fan's opinion of what the Big 12 is. A track meet, up and down the field with the defenses never even participating in the game. Losing team has scored at least 47 points in each of the last 2 games here. OU should win this game. They're a better team. A lot could be on the line here for OU, especially if they drop a game maybe to Texas or even 2 games in the regular season, which I don't think many people expect to happen, but it could. But the point is, unless they're undefeated coming in this game, it's almost a must-win situation. I seriously doubt a 2-win Big 12 champion is getting into the college football playoffs. So this could be a huge game. They got to go on the road. at Oklahoma State and play it. But the Bedlam game, OU at Oklahoma State, Thanksgiving weekend, November 30th. All right, that's it. Those are the games I think are the biggest or the most important or the most interesting, whatever you want to call it, within the Big 12 for 2019. Again, I didn't cover any of the non-conference games, even though there are some that are very interesting, important. LSU at Texas, the biggest of those probably. But these were just the conference games today. But I think those are the games that will decide who ends up in the Big 12 title game at the end of this year. Well, that's mostly what those are. Threw Kansas in there just because of the grassy or Les Miles. But anyway, I appreciate you guys watching and have a great morning.